This is simply just the boiler room. This is also the most dangerous piece of equipment on the entire farm. It's a pressure vessel, and it goes up to 125 pounds. And if the pop-off valves that you see right there on top, if one of those failed, that boiler, which is 250 horses, would blow. If it went off, it'd be like an atomic bomb, and it would level this building and part of the shop and office. So it's not a pretty sight to see one go, and I've seen one go. I wasn't in of course I wouldn't be here, but I saw a boiler blow up in France years ago, and it leveled the entire distillery. So it's dangerous, and that's why it's really important to take good care of it. But starting off, a boiler has to be fed water. And that water that goes to the boiler is fed from here. This is called the feed water tank. And you can hear noise in there. It's hissing and steaming, and you see the steam coming out of the top of the building that's been blowing out all day. But this right here is called the sight glass. And this is really important to watch this, and you cannot fire that boiler, turn it on until the water is at this level right here. If you turn the boiler on without the water here, you wouldn't have water there, and you'd burn up the boiler really fast. All right. So this is really critical to watch this. So the feed water tank is really critical in making sure that the water level's right, and your steam is going in preheating, your pumps are working, because this is really critical for maintaining a functional and operational boiler. Okay, so here we're standing beside the sight glass on the boiler. This is a 250 horse Cleaver Brooks boiler. It's been completely rebuilt, and so all the components are Honeywell components, which are the most trustworthy components for operation. It's all computerized. And here again we're looking at the sight glass, which we saw over on the feed water tank. And this is the same, has the same function. You have to check, make sure the water level is at this level right here before you ever turn the boiler on. And if the water level comes down and doesn't come back up, it means the pump has failed at the feed water tank, or the feed water supply has shut off for some reason, and you have to shut your boiler down. Naturally, when this drops down to this mark right here, if it's not being resupplied, the boiler will shut down automatically, because if not, then it'll burn it up. So it's really critical watching the feed water level. Fuel lines coming into the regulating valve, and you got your supply and return. Pressure gauges here to make sure that your pressure is set for when the boiler's kicking on. This is the control here that opens it up to what's called low fire or high fire. Right now it's shut off because it's now turned down to low fire because we're up to pressure, as you saw there on the gauge, at 125 pounds. And when that pressure drops down, then this opens up and injects more fuel through this system into the burner to get the temperature up, which increases the steam volume and brings it back up. So it's all automatically controlled by the computer system here. So you can watch it here. Now right now it's saying it's on standby because we're at maximum pressure. So as soon as I bleed off a little steam, that will kick right back on. And John, just for the camera, I'm going to do that, and so everybody can hear the sound. It's
that's a killer shot.
So part of distillation, it's really critical in having good steam. Now in commercial distillation, they have chemical tanks on the water system, and the reason they have chemical tanks is because there's minerals in the water, and the minerals create electrolysis inside the boiler and gets on the tubes. And when that happens, it'll pit the tubes and create leaks. It's $5,000 per tube to replace a tube. That's after you've paid to open it up. That's why these bolts are here, and it's on a hinge, so this unbolts and this whole thing swings out, and inside it's just full of tubes that run the full length. And then this is a fire chamber that goes right through the center of it. This is called a fire tube boiler, and it's one of the most efficient ones. So one of the things that we do, and it's more expensive in Young Living, but other companies don't do it because it does cost money, and that's that they put chemicals on their water and treat it with chemicals. When I bought the boiler brand new in Utah years ago, 800 horse boiler there, they told me I need to put a chemical treatment on the water supply or I'd lose my boiler. And I said, no, I won't do it. So I did similar to this. The water's not as hard here as it is there. Down there, if you go in our boiler room, you'll see a whole huge filtration system that I put in for taking as much of the mineral out as possible. But what we do here is every season when we finish, then we open it up front and back and we rod the tubes out. We clean the tubes so we don't build electrolysis in. And of course, it costs us about $2,500 a service to do that. But that way we don't have chemicals crossing in the steam that you find in commercial distillers around the world. But starting out, the chips in the bottom will be warm, and that warmth will radiate up. And then I open and give it just a little bit of steam as we load, so it can kind of maintain that, and that heat will rise, as you know, and it just helps keep it from cooling, getting as cold as the ambient temperature outside. It's really, really critical, because if the oil is coming out of the wood, because in the wood they're called channels. They're not molecule pockets like we find in lavender or melissa or whatever. It's a channel in the needles and the bark and the wood chip. They're oil channels, and so that oil will start coming out of the channel through the wood material, and if it does not come all the way out, it will homogenize from the temperature fluctuation, and it'll go back into the wood, and then it's gone. It's totally, you can't recover it. So we have two issues that are really critical in this distilling in the wintertime, and that's reflux and homogenization. And so the steam, once we start the steam flow, it's really critical to have the volume and the flow equal to the pressure inside, which is about 1.5 pounds, to keep it moving up against gravity to where it'll lift the oil out and carry it out, rather than either drop it back in or absorb it back into the wood fiber. So it's really easy, and I've watched operators that I've been training that weren't watching it, and we'd lose an entire cook just from homogenizing back into the chips in the wintertime. And 1 gallon of balsam oil is worth $23,000. Uh-oh.
You got a ladder?
Cookers at a time. Once these are loaded, then the lids have got to go on. Then we'll load the next two, or until we run out of chips. We should have enough chips to load all 4 cookers. Now, the chips, because they compress a lot on their own, you don't have to tromp them. They just have to be spread out evenly in there. So I'll dump in a few loads until we get up about 1/3 of the way, about halfway, and then start just forking it in and spreading it out so it comes up even. The thing with plant material, regardless of whether it's chips or whether it's with lavender or any plant you're distilling, if it's not spread and compressed and packed evenly, then the steam will find the least resistance to get through, and we call that the chimney effect.
So an air pocket, you mean?
Like an air pocket, yes. And the steam will follow that air channel through there, And when that happens, then it'll start vacuuming, literally vacuuming through there to get through that hole, and it'll just make it bigger and bigger and bigger until the majority of the steam is going through that chimney. When that happens, it scorches all the material around that chimney and scorches the oil. And then the other plant material that doesn't get equal steam saturation homogenizes. Once it homogenizes, it's a complete throwaway. Can't do anything with it. So we spread it out, bring it up after the halfway mark, just spreading it, and just walking around the edges only. Where with lavender and other plants, we really have to pack it hard, but with chips, we just walk around the edge to compress it against the chains, because naturally the chains will allow the first place for steam to find a way through. Okay? Well, I just told them to bring me one. They didn't have any here. Okay, the swan neck has to be hooked up first. Okay. It's all in the ear. You listen to it, and you listen to it as it goes up. As you can hear the sound, you're paying attention to it as it's working up through the plant material. You can hear it, it'll go like it'll just hit. And when it does that, you know that the steam is hitting air pockets. And so then it'll change the pitch of the sound.